Elementary night school is in session. Couple minutes late getting in here as per the usual. That's just what's up in these times for this lady. As noted several times during the broadcast, your teacher is not a perfect person. Guess what? There's no such thing as a perfect person. If somebody telling you that there's a way to be a perfect person or that they are a perfect person, just let that just go past your head because they're wrong. It's impossible. It's impossible. The perfect person is a dog or a cat. No, I'm just kidding. They can have their flaws as well, I guess. I mean, everybody on earth is just trying to live their life, and we all make mistakes and we all do awesome things, and it's everybody is a mix of those things. So try not to get caught in the binary. And tonight, the curriculum that I have for you delves deeply into the concept of what is the binary and why is it important and why is it something people talk about. This is going to be an extension of the discussion that we started last week about the number 0 and all of its different and mystical properties, and the fact that the number 0 is really almost more of a concept than a number itself, because every other number represents the idea of a thing or the opposite of a thing. But 0 is its own special guy, because 0 represents, as we discussed last time, nothing. 0 represents the concept of nothingness and the idea that while the world we exist in is a world comprised entirely of something, that there implies by that thing existing that there could actually be a completely different existence, which to us doesn't seem like existence, of nothingness, of pure nothing. Now, I wish right now that I would have nothingness from my cat making noise in her litter box right now, right when the show is starting. But can we control these things? No. Welcome to viewer number 1. You're obviously the top fan because you're the only person in here. Unfortunately, she don't tell me who you are, but that's okay. Welcome to elementary night school. Hello, Tyken 8462. Subaru. I'm not exactly sure what you're asking by saying Subaru, unless you're just trying to get me to say the word Subaru. Maybe you're asking if I own a Subaru car. The answer would be no. I don't actually own a car at this time, but never in my life have I owned a Subaru. I find them to be too, like trying too hard to be like I'm in the outdoors and I like outdoorsy things. Come on, kitty, you have to stop now. The show is starting. There's people. Hello, Roblu, Sebastian, Robaluz. I'm not saying that right. I'm saying hi back to you. Thank you for coming into elementary night school. It's elementary night school. Elementary night school. Elementary night school. And for those of you who don't know, elementary night school is our goal here is to bring the authentic Arthur Fonzarelli from the television show Happy Days, fake 1950s in the 1970s night school experience to today's modern busy preteens aged 8 to 10 who are in grades 3 through 5, and for whatever reasons, they have to take their third or fourth, fifth grade curriculum at night because they have a job at the factory in the day. They're working at the hospital. Maybe they got to take care of their own kids in the day. Now they got to fight with the divorce judge proving they can get through fourth grade. They got to do it at night. Here we are. I see, Tyken, you're asking if I like women. I kind of thought that might have been why you were asking that. It's super hilarious that you would ask that. I am This is elementary night school. It's not really about me as a person per se, although I will say that I consider myself to basically be a like heterosexual person, I guess, but like I don't really care about that. Like it's whatever. Um I don't really date people. It's kind of pointless to me. I am like not interested in spending my life for things like that, so I don't really stress about it. Now I see someone's talking about a person named Terp, and I don't actually pronounce that person's name out loud. We talked about it last week when we were talking about Erlen Mersk. I don't pronounce that person's name either. I don't like to give people's names power by uttering them, and so I don't say those things. Yeah, there's some interesting comments in here tonight about some really weird things, and I think that like I think I have the power to like mute somebody or like remove them out of here. So I have removed a person who keeps saying mean things right now because this is elementary night school, and basically I do not talk about really a lot of political things or a lot of things about my own personal life that much, other than the things that relate to the curriculum that I'm sharing or questions that come up from people in the chat if they're legitimate questions. Now, tonight is the first time I've actually had to deal with some people who are sort of like being problematic, which is kind of bizarre to me. I don't really understand that, but I'm not going to stress about it because that's not what I'm here for. What I'm here to do, and those who know, people who've been in the class so far, I'm saying hi back to you, Roblu Sebastian. I appreciate you. You're not saying weird things in the chat. I really appreciate that. This chat is not a place for those kinds of things. If you want to talk about that stuff, there's plenty of other channels where you can talk about that. Tonight, what we're talking about is the concept of 0 and the concept of 1 in math, in mathematics, and the special properties of these two numbers, and the fact that the two of them compose or comprise what's known as the binary. And many of you may be familiar with the word binary for various reasons relating to whatever those comments were that people were asking me about, like whatever, like who I like to like whatever hang out with, or I don't even know what, but like it's just like whatever. I don't, honestly, I'm gonna be super real with you. This show is not for that kind of stuff. I'm not into that kind of discussions because life is really short. And well, thank you so much. A happy coaster 447. I'm gonna write yours and Roblu Sebastian's names down and follow you after the broadcast because I appreciate nice people who aren't being like bizarro or something. So I'm just not like into that. It's just like I say, our life on earth is so short. You guys, I'm serious. You know, elementary night school is about either talking to strangely actual children who have came in here, even though the concept of it being elementary night school for 8 to 10-year-olds in 3rd through 5th grade at night, trying to be like when Arthur Fonzarelli, the Fonz, went to night school in 1981 on the television show Happy Days. Because here's the thing, this is the story of this show. If you really want to know, if you're interested in me, because it seems like people be asking me questions like about myself tonight, which that's also the first sort of like time that has happened. Usually most people kind of just dig right in with like what we're doing. Um, Not to call out tonight's audience specifically, but don't be challenging students. Be excited students. Be excited students about life on Earth, man. You're here, you're living it. Be curious about it and don't just be focusing on weirdness and like being some kind of like a troll or a jerk, I guess, or mean. Like life, you guys don't understand. If anybody that's been saying these things is like young or old, or you don't think about it, whatever, but you came all the way from space and time to come here and live your life here on this earth. Are you going to spend it being like, you're fat or whatever? Or are you going to like actually spend it trying to like give a rip about things that are like actually important instead of like what somebody look like with your eyes? Tell you one thing, your eyes, students, are one of your worst senses. And I don't just say that as a person who wears glasses, so my eyes are extra bad. No, but most of us, our eyes perceive so much less of the world than the rest of our senses can perceive. But yet, human beings tend to be using their eyes for like almost everything that they make decisions about in society and in life. And it's a shame because it's a very tricky sense of our body, because a lot of what you think you see with your eyes is actually your brain like making a story out of a few things that it sees, and the rest is just like kind of just made up. And that's boom science minute. That's just me saying something that's kind of like I'm boiling it down to the where I'm what I'm saying is too general and not actually true, but it is kind of true. Scientists know about it. I don't have to know about that because this is elementary night school. This is for grades 3 through 5. And to get back to the story, basically, when the television program called Happy Days was on television, on American network television, in the late 70s to the mid 1980s, well, I guess mid 70s, it don't matter. Whenever it was on, that's when I was a kid. And there was a guy on that show called Fonzie, the Fonz. He is like the greatest dude ever. The coolest guy. So cool. He always wearing his leather jacket. He's a mechanic. He is a mechanic of anything. Trucks, cars, motorcycles, it doesn't matter. He can fix any of them. One time, he took his motorcycle apart and put it back together inside his apartment. So, he was cool, and everybody liked him. They all thought he was the coolest guy ever. And he was making money. He was a mechanic. Mechanics make money. I don't know if any of you out there have a car, but costs a lot of money to fix them. So he was fine. He didn't have to go to night school, but he had never completed his high school graduation. And so he was sort of like, oh no, like he felt bad about that. Like it was like something he left unfinished. And he had a new family member come into his life. I believe it was a new nephew, but it was somebody that it was like he became a big brother or like a mentor to this kid. Full disclosure, I'm not 100. It's been a long time. It's been 45 years since this was on the air. But yeah, so in 1981 in real life, but on the television show, because the show was set in the 1950s, this was supposed to be in the like late 1950s, but it was 1981 in real life. I was in 3rd grade when that show was on in 1981. And the Fonz went to night school. And I was like, what? There's night school? You gotta be kidding me. This is amazing. Why wasn't I given this option when I signed up for school originally? Mom, you failed me. I want night school. And so I was asking my mom, can I go to 3rd grade at night school? And she's, nah, that's not, they don't have that. That's not a thing. They don't have third grade night school. They don't have night school for anything except adults if they didn't get their high school, and it's only for high school diploma equivalencies. They don't have elementary for that. And I was like, but why not though? Because some kids like nighttime. I like nighttime. My mom was like, yeah, but like that's just not how society is set up. And they're not going to like do it just for the few people or kids that want it that way. They can't have shift elementary school like first, second, and third like at factories, because then like what if like the parents actually work at the factory and they're on opposite shift of their kid, like of school. You can't, it's, they just have it at one time of day, honey. You have to go to third grade in the day. So always in my head, I was like, man, that's not right. There should be elementary night school. If kids want to go at night, they should be allowed to. That's stupid, because I'm kind of at my best at night more, or at least in the later evening times. And so I always had that in my head. And so during the pandemic, I was like, oh, okay, for a joke on Facebook Live, I did this show. And I was like, elementary night school, elementary night school. And it was bringing the authentic Arthur Fonzarelli from the show Happy Days, fake 1950s in the 1970s night school experience to today's busy modern preteens ages 8 through 10, who for whatever reasons need to get their third through fifth grade curriculum completed at night. Maybe they have a parole officer that is up their butt and saying, you've got to finish your fifth grade classes. And they're like, but I finally worked my way up to first shift at the factory. If I have to take off and go to baby school during the day for chumps, I'm going to lose my first shift spot, go bump down to third again. And that's not good for me or my family. So, guess what? That's where we come in. Now, full disclosure, elementary night school is not an accredited um, educational institution, and all of the curriculum on elementary night school is purely artistic. This program is not intended for children. However, it is intended for today's busy modern preteen, which we get is the conceit of the show. Just don't worry about it, because the point is, weirdly, there has been kids in this show the last several weeks when I've been running it. So I've been taking the ball and running with that and actually doing it for kids. And because it's on Face or on YouTube now instead of Facebook, it's like it's not just my friends. And like because I'm a stand-up comic, like a lot of my friends are just like goofy, like they're also comedians, and so we never really got into the like actual curriculum of elementary night school at that time. Plus it was pandemic. I mean, nobody was being very serious, or like everybody was being super serious, but looking back it was kind of stupid that we were. But the point is, um this time I really am trying to incorporate into this a lot of the actual curriculum that I experienced when I was in third grade at those times. Because the way that they taught us about math, especially math and other topics like English, which we're going to be getting into slowly, but I'm starting right now with math just because math is sort of like, it's, even if I have people in here who are watching this on a translation of my English, the math will still translate over because math is a universal language. It isn't tied to one country or one system of thinking. Math exists as a fact of the world and like being in the physical world of earth and the environment of life. So math is to me the good entryway here. And also because the one reason too is because I feel that there's a lot of adults who for whatever reasons, have built up a mind block about math, and they don't try to do math on their own or really think about math. They just always use a calculator or chat GPT or whatever, and they don't have all that information like just already in their brain. And to me, the thing is that knowledge is power. Knowledge is one of the few powers that exists in the entire universe. And knowledge is something that it's not just the knowledge of how to find information that's stored elsewhere. Knowledge is actually you having that knowledge in your brain, you having the understanding yourself of the facts and the information, especially these base level things. And the problem is that kids are doing school at the same time also doing life. And uh, a kid's life is completely at the whims and the challenges of their family. So a lot of things can be going on in a child's life at crucial times when they should be learning something important, like the basic facts of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, learning how to do long division and learning your multiplication tables, and starting to understand the conceptual understanding of what math is. And as we go along up into the fifth grade, you start getting into the geometry, which also further shapes your understanding of the physical world and how mathematics plays into it. And the thing is that like, let's say a kid is got a parent that is experiencing chronic illness or even terminal illness. And that's right at the same time when that child is supposed to be learning about fractions or whatever. Well, I mean, nobody, child or adult, has the capacity to be like, oh, also my parent is dying. Oh, also I'm learning these multiplication tables or whatever. Like it slips past you. And then you go along through school and everything, and now you have a gap. There's a gap in the things that you know. And it means that as an adult, you have a gap in your understanding of these things. And these gaps cause you to have a mental hang up about it. Pardon me, I need to hydrate really quick. Hydrate with my Alani. It's not exactly a hydration drink. It has a lot of caffeine. But basically once you're an adult, if you have a gap in your learning of something that most people learned when they were in third or fourth grade or whatever, now you feel real weird about it because you're like, well, I'm a grown adult and I didn't learn that and I feel stupid about it. I'm not going to ever deal with that. I'm just going to like, and you see this a lot with people who are illiterate or just functionally literate, which is once they get to a certain point in life and they haven't picked up the idea of how to read, they start to feel really, really crazy about it because they're like, how could I not know how to read? Everybody knows how to read. Why didn't I learn how to read? What's wrong with my brain? I can't. This is so crazy. Like, I can't even admit that I don't understand how to read. And so the anxiety about it causes the person to actually spend so much energy trying to like fake the world or like get by in life without really being able to read and not really letting people know that they don't know how to read, that like it just becomes more and more entrenched that they're not going to even like by the time they did all that effort to try to like fake everybody out. Like, they probably could have learned how to read, but it would take them actually having the desire and the impulse to go and ask somebody to help them learn it, and also sticking with it and trying to learn it. Because when you're learning something new like that, or learning something that isn't new, but you didn't really learn it good at the first time, and you're an adult now, it's hard because you're an adult. You're used to being like, I'm in charge of things that I do, and like I kind of have it together, like I'm the grown up. Like a lot of times person is a parent of other children, so they you don't want to put yourself in that position of being like, "Oh, I'm a beginner at something. Oh, I don't know anything about this thing and I feel like a baby about it." I mean, it's one reason why people have a hard time as adults wanting to learn new languages. Because when you're first learning a new language, whenever you try to speak that language, you sound like a dumb baby in that language. You just do because you don't know enough. You can't just suddenly speak like an adult fluent person in that language because you don't know. You're not. You're more like a baby child in that language because it's not the language that you learned when you were the baby. So, like, whatever, it's brave and good for you to try to learn. But it takes a certain combination of factors of a person like wanting to, and then like not being afraid or embarrassed, not judging their own self for having this gap in their learning or their knowledge, is so many things. And so that's one reason why I like wanted to start doing this show again, because I feel like some of the information that I want to share in these classes of these third through fifth grade curriculum points um are things that a lot of people either didn't learn very well the first time. Maybe it was because their teacher was mean. Their teacher was seemed mean. Maybe their teacher wasn't even actually mean, but to that kid they seemed mean. I mean, there's so many crazy factors that comes into play when you're trying to have a person learn what another person. Oh my gosh, you guys have been chatting and I've had it stuck on one thing. Otising. Thank you so much. I do feel you, man. I can't even remember now what you were talking about, but I appreciate it. Ariana, I'm also saying hi. I'm also going to write down everybody's. I try to go back and follow people who come on here. Cohen Caps. Cohen Caps, I am originally from, I grew up in Michigan, but I currently live in Los Angeles, California, and I've lived several other places as well. And yes, okay. Yes. Yeshua. Let me write yours down. Maybe I shouldn't even say that out loud. I don't know if you're supposed to say that word out loud. But yes, person who is saying 0010110 exit the matrix. Yes, exactly. I mean, that is exactly what the binary is about, is matrix, you know. And I'm also saying hi back to you. And I am that I am. Okay, I'm not going to read all that out loud because those seem like magical words that I'm not supposed to be saying out loud. So I'm not going to read those parts out loud. But hello to you, and welcome. And it is interesting that you mentioned those words and all that magicalness of those concepts, because mathematics, for those who really get deeply into the study of mathematics, they do often come to see a certain mathematical elegance in the universe, which leads them to also believe that the universe has a um, functional design that is not purely brought about by chaos. So, so yeah, but it all starts off from these very basic building block ideas, which when you get down to it are actually not basic at all because they're like really, really important concepts. And so the last time that we got together last week, I was talking about the number 0 and how 0 is actually less of a number and more of a concept because of its special properties, that it is the representation of nothingness. Um, since you're saying these high level spiritual concepts and words that you're writing on your chat, I'm sure you understand that that is a very deep and meaningful concept, but it's a number that we use all the time. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about 0. Last time we were together, we talked about the fact that 0 uh, cannot subtract numbers from itself. But if you subtract 0 from any other number, the number remains unchanged. Because if you have something and you subtract nothing from it, which is what 0 represents, then this remains unchanged because you've taken nothing away. Now, the same thing applies when you're talking about adding 0 to another number. That other number will again remain unchanged, because if you have 1 and then you add nothing to it, what do you have? 1. That's it. Visionary 30Y9F. How do I identify myself? My name's M. Allen. That's how I identify myself. Shoe F1N, saying a whole lot of nothing. Yes, I am saying a whole lot of nothing because I'm talking about the number 0, and the number 0 is the representation of nothing. So that's exactly right. Now, where it gets interesting with 0 is because if you multiply another number by 0, what you get is 0 every time, bar none. Here's why. Because multiplying really just means adding. So let's say this is 1, and I am multiplying it by 0. Guess what? I am having 0 of these. So I have 0. And it wouldn't matter what the number was. Alex, thank you so much for the advice. That is actually just a cosmetic smoke detector. There is actually a correct one in the closet behind there, which is up to the most recent standards, at least as far as I know, because we did actually have the city inspector here in the apartment last year, and they looked at them and they were all fine. So thank you though for that. That's so cute that you asked about that, because here's why. My grandfather was like absolutely obsessed with smoke detectors, and he was so adamant that like every time I ever moved into a new place, he'd be like, examine your smoke detector. Is it functioning properly? Is it up to the current standards? Does it have all the sensors working? Are the batteries new? You know, is anything dirty on there? And like, he visited me when I lived in Alaska, and he was 85, and he went and took me to Walmart and bought me the newer kind of better one. and he insisted on installing it, and I didn't have a step ladder. He was standing up on a chair. I was so nervously the whole time. He's an electrical engineer. Yes, Alex, that's right. It was because he loved me very much, and he always said that, like, it's important to have smoke detectors in any home, but if you're living in an apartment building or other type of a residential building where there's other people living there, it's extra important to have a functioning smoke detector because you're not just at the whim of your own choices as far as if it's going to be a fire, because you don't know how other people in the other apartment building are living. And I found that out in college because um one day the other corridor of our building, just like across the way, a whole like section of there had to be like, everybody had to move out and it had to all be renovated for smoke damage because this lady, well, girl, she was a college student, she they had these built-in shelves on the walls, like floating shelves, and this lady had put all these candles on the lower shelf and then lit them, and then she like went in the other room and was doing other stuff. And then I mean, I'm sure you, Alex, know because you pointed out about the smoke detector, like if you have two shelves and you put candle on the lower shelf and light it, then just leave it, the heat of that candle flame, especially she had a bunch of them, is going to start heating up the bottom of the top shelf. And eventually it's going to reach a flash point where that lights up and goes into a fire. And that is exactly what happened. Her whole wall of her apartment was burnt all up. And like I say, several people had to go stay in hotels and stuff. We all had to evacuate the building, but ever since then, I was always like, yeah, my grandpa's right about the smoke detectors. But it's so funny that you pointed that out. I appreciate that so much. And that was one thing I noticed when I first moved into. I was like, I hope they're not relying on that one. But then I saw the other one. I was like, oh, that's good at least. But yeah. Um, So, yeah, we were talking about the concept of zero. And the other thing about zero when it comes to multiplication, division, subtraction, and addition is that something that's impossible to do is to divide any number by zero. It can't be done. It's a theoretical impossibility. And the reason is because if you have something, how on earth are you supposed to figure out how many nothings are in something? I mean, the very space where nothing is a space where something cannot be, and vice versa. So you could never figure out how many nothings are in something because there aren't, but also it's meaningless. It's a meaningless thing. And so it's an equation that does not exist in mathematics because it's stupid. But it does point out about the binary because that's the whole idea of a binary and why binaries are used so much by the matrix or computers in general and other systems, is because it's a very simple system that has no room for um like something to fall in between. um a binary is the concept that there is zero, which is nothing, and there is one, which is something. And where nothing is, something cannot be. And where something is, nothing cannot be because they can't be together. It's like light and dark. If something is light, it's inherently not dark. If something is dark, it's inherently not light. Light can't be where dark is, and dark can't be where light is, because when one comes there, the other one is gone. And it's the same with 0 and 1. And figure it out. Goodbye for now. Okay, I will see you later. Thank you so much for joining. Appreciate it. And yeah, so that's one reason why computers use it, because computers need to be um their equations and how they structure the functions that the computer does are all based on the idea that where there's zero, there can't be one, where there's one, there can't be zero. So everything can be designed around that idea. And of course, in modern society, 11 white, 11 black, 22 master builder. I think that means something, but I'm not 100. I am not a smart man on certain things, I guess. That probably sounds kind of like something from chess, maybe, which I, full disclosure, do not know how to play. My dad tried to teach me, but my brain immediately always spaced out. Always. I don't know why. I don't know why. I just could not learn how to play it. And it's like, no matter how many times I would be like, I'm gonna learn how to play this, I just never it I would just go like, this seems crazy, and I just didn't want to do it. And you know what? That's fine, because everybody don't have to play chess or know how to play chess, I guess. You don't have to know how to play chess to know how to learn math, I guess. It probably has something to do with knowing math, but I'm not going to get mad at myself about it, because to me, the reason why I don't like to learn how to play chess is because its rules are kind of like, they seem really random. It seems really crazy that, like, oh, the guy on the horse is like more important than the other guy. And then this one is for this. You got to know all that and like think about it every time. And I don't know, I have ADHD, and even with treatment, there's still certain things where my mind just like rebels against trying to know it. Like, I don't know. But the binary is something that you can kind of understand. You kind of can't understand it, and the reason is because it's not necessarily the reality of lived experience in life. Because in regular life, in the world that we actually live in, there's always a lot of space and gray area in between the 0 and the 1. That's why in our mathematics, we have an entire infinity of numbers that exists between the 0 and the 1. Um, because we recognize that in this world, there's some things that are part something and part something else. And those two things shouldn't be able to be together in one thing, but they are. Now, when I say that, what always comes to mind for me, because I'm older, is Reese's peanut butter cups, because when I was growing up, there was commercial on TV where it was like, because peanut butter cups were sort of like new. I know you guys are like, what? Peanut butter cups have been around since forever, ever. Well, kind of, but actually, nah, not the Reese ones. And so, um, they had commercial where it would be like one guy's driving a chocolate truck, which for some reason just has like loose chocolate. In commercials, it's never how like actual things are. It's always so crazy. So one guy has peanut truck, one guy has chocolate truck, and the trucks run into each other, and the peanut butter is going into the chocolate, and the chocolate's going on the peanut butter, and the one guy's like, "Get your peanut butter out of my chocolate," and the other guy's like, "Get your chocolate out of my peanut butter," and then they like take a bite of it, I guess, or whatever, and then they're like, "Oh wait, oh word, like we should have been working together all this time," and then ding, and now it's just like a truck full of peanut butter cups, and they're perfect. Commercials are just so crazy, but that's what it makes me think of with like the binary of like the idea is the peanut butter and the chocolate are completely unrelated guys and they have nothing to do with each other. They could never even be in the same spot. And then it's like, oh, magic, they're together. And that's kind of how it is when people say like that they themselves, like somebody earlier in the chat was asking me how I identify myself, and I said I identify myself as M. Allen because that's my name and I'm the only one. So of course that's how I identify myself. Um, but I think they wanted me to say what my pronouns are. I mean, my pronouns are she and her. Like I've been a female person my whole life. Like I'm not suddenly differently to that. But a person who says that they are non-binary is a person who is rejecting the idea that every person actually has to be one or the other. That you could actually be partially one and partially the other, either in your mind and spirit or actually physically. And so that's what people mean when they say non-binary is they're saying like I reject the system that says where there's a male there's no female, where there's a female there's no male. They're just saying I don't think that's the way it is and I don't see myself as being rigidly one or the other thing. I'm just sort of like my own guy. And so I think if I had been raised in another time frame, more closer to now, and I was a younger person, I probably might consider myself to be non-binary only because I've always kind of rejected the binary on all things. I've always tried to strive to see how there's like middle places of anything and how you can always mix something together that don't seem like it goes together and then whoa, it's cool, it came out good, like wow. So I just never, I mean, like just like I was raised in religion a lot and like Christian religion, and so it's like Christian religion is very much like oh, like there's only like this or this, like you're either going to go to heaven or you're going to go to hell or whatever. And like even as a little teensy little kid, I was sort of like, that seems limiting. And that's my personality. That's why I made elementary night school. That's why I wished that they had elementary night school when I was in elementary school 45 years ago. And Fonzie from Happy Days went to night school for his GED. And I said, why can't I go to elementary night school for third grade? It's stupid that I'm not allowed to. I want that. And so to me, that seems to be a lot of sort of non-binary-ish energy, I guess, of the energy of saying like, why don't we just imagine things? Why do we have to be limited by what we're told or something? Like there's room for magic, I guess. I don't know. People get really hung up about that stuff. To me, I'm like, every single one of us is our own guy. But guess what? All of us are one guy also. Like the whole thing, not just people. The planets, the universes, time, space, your house, your car, the inside fire of the earth that keeps it floating on the circle that it's supposed to go on, your dog, yourself, everything, 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 all one thing. One thing. So, how could there be this thing and this thing when it's all one thing? But also, each person is their own one thing too. And I think part of the problem that we have at this times right now, but maybe probably all times of persons, human persons, is because for each and every one of us, the world only exists through us. The world as we understand it, or the world that we know of, only exists because we see it, because we smell it, because we feel it, because we taste it, because we're in it, because we're looking around and there it is. But it's got to come through us or it doesn't exist to us. So every person feels like they're the most important person because, of course, you have to. How could you not? How could you ever not feel like you're the most important person? When, as far as you know, the only reason the earth exists at all is because you think there's a earth in your brain cage. So, of course, you feel important. And also because you have to feel important and like you're the most important thing if you're going to survive, especially if you're going to survive childhood, which, while this show is expressly not for children, it is also as a joke for children. And I have had children in here. And it's like, if you're going to survive, especially childhood, you really do have to see yourself as the most important because you have to watch out for your own self all the time. And sometimes that means not watching out for other people because if you were to, it would put yourself in dangerly. So, I mean, the issue that we have is that, and I don't think it's a new issue. I don't think that it comes from computers and video games. I think people have always done this. The issue is that there's so entirely many of us. And then if you think about animals and stuff and think about them as individuals, it's like when you think about all the consciousnesses that are experiencing the world through their own selves and seeing themselves as the center of the existing world, your brain like can't grasp how many of that there are. There's so many people. You can't ever know or understand or even begin to think the specific details of all those people. It would be impossible for you. But you know they exist, but they become like puppets or shadows of people. They're just like nothingnesses. Like they're just like the idea of people. So, like for example, a lot of times when you see a painting that has like a crowd of people in the painting, like the first row of people in the crowd is like pretty fleshed out. Like you can see their features, you can see the clothes that they're wearing, you can see that this is a man, this is a woman, this is their child, whatever. At a parade, it's a big crowd of people. Second row, they're also pretty fleshed out, man. You can see some lot of details about those people. Third row, they are starting to look more and more like shapes, although they do still have faces and they do have colorful hints of clothings. But once you get past some of those rows, it just becomes a lot of just single dots of paint on the thing going back and back depending on how big that crowd is supposed to be. And that's obviously because it would be really difficult and nearly impossible for somebody to put in all the fine detail on every single person in a huge crowd that they're making. That's why those Where's Waldo books were so popular, was because they did flesh those people out enough in those drawings to where you could get confused and think that you saw Waldo a lot of times when you didn't see Waldo. Now, those who are younger may not know what Where's Waldo is, but Where's Waldo was these books, and it would be like a big, huge scene on a page, and a bunch of the people in the scene would kind of have on clothes or items that were the same kind of color scheme that the Waldo character had, because Waldo would have like a red and white striped like shirt, I think, and like a hat, maybe, and glasses. It's vague. I don't even have Waldo fleshed out in my mind. You see what I mean? Like, it's just your brain can't get itself into the whole details. Your brain can't sit there and consciously recognize the total personhood of every person that exists, even though you, as a moral person, would like to acknowledge that all those people have their personhood. Your brain cannot grasp it. Your brain can't make all those people into whole stories, which they actually are, because they are their own whole people. And so you get people walking around kind of seeing a lot of the people around them as non-playable characters in video games, or the further back rows of people in a painting of a crowd, or, any of a number of things like that, where it's like, it's just the concept of a person, but it's not a person. And so the problem that comes in when you're doing that regularly is that it can be difficult to shift gears and treat the individual people that you actually encounter in the world as full individual humans with their own whole world, and who also are experiencing the world as though they are creating it themselves, because every one of us feels that way, because to us that's how it is. Our fingers touch something, but then our brain goes, oh, that's something cold, or that is wet, or that is the wall or the floor or whatever. Your mind is the thing that's assigning the value to everything else that your body is perceiving. And so you really feel that you are the one who creates the universe. Now, this has gotten way deeper than a lot of these classes have so far. And I'm kind of talking to myself right now, I think. I don't know if anybody is really actually on here. It says there isn't, but sometimes there is when there isn't, and vice versa. I don't know. Full disclosure, I don't really know how things work. But again, am I supposed to? Nah, because how's anybody gonna know how everything works? If you knew how everything worked, you wouldn't be looking at YouTube, that is for sure. You'd be running things, I guess, or I don't know what you would do, but it seems like all your time would be spent thinking about how things work, and you wouldn't actually ever even be living. So don't worry about it. Like, if you're worried, it's kind of like when you're trying to collect something. And like, as you can see, I have certain collectible items around here, like especially Fruit Loops and Toucan Sam and stuff. And it's like, I went through a phase during the pandemic where I was really collecting a lot of Toucan Sam and Fruit Loop stuff. And you get in this mindset of like, I gotta have every single thing. But at a certain time, you realize, oh, that's impossible. That's impossible, because so many different things have been made. And then let's say even if you collected everything that was like for the United States Toucan Sam and Fruit Loops, guess what? They sell that stuff everywhere around the world, and they have different ones from different countries and stuff. I have a few that are from other countries and stuff, and they're different. So if you got the whole collection of American, then you still have to keep going with the other one. And the same thing is how you feel about like learning things or trying to understand things. Is like somehow you have to collect it all. Like you're supposed to figure it all out. And I think that also comes from the fact that we are the ones who are creating the universe that we understand with our own minds, is because it gives you that feeling that, like, well, if I came through space and time to come here and be M. Allen or whatever your guys' names are, that must be because I'm supposed to figure this thing out. I'm supposed to be the guy who figures this whole thing out and gets everybody out of this trap and nobody has to suffer anymore, and we figure it all out and we ascend to the next levels, and it's all understanding and whoo, the singularity, voila. But like, if any guy was supposed to be that guy, wouldn't there already have been? And also, since there never has been, don't worry that it has to be you. You don't have to be the person who figures out like what this is all for, because nobody ever has. And when people out here sitting here saying that they have figured that out, they're lying. They're straight lying, because you can't. You can make guesses, you can get concepts, you can have theories, you can have beliefs, you can have thoughts, you can have dreams, you can have all kinds of perceptions and beliefs and ideas and experiences that make you trust those ideas and everything else. But in the end, you're still basically lying if you say you understand what this whole entire thing is about and what it's for. And here's how I know, because we're in it. We're in it. We can't look at it because we are in it. How to explain that? All right, let me show you something. This is a painting that I made. It says, "Vengeance is a trap." Okay, in this painting are many, many, many pixels of color. If I push it in close, you can see. There's all There's dark, dark blue ones. There's black. There's pink. They're all little pinpoints, pixels of color. All together, those pixels of color make this painting. Now, if you asked one of these pixels of color what this painting looks like, could they tell you? No, 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 nah. Because guess why? They're in it. They are part of it. Even let's say that a pixel of color could be sentient and could somehow separate itself from this painting and go outside the painting and observe the painting itself and then tell you what it was a painting of. Guess what? The painting that it would describe wouldn't be the painting that it is in, because they wouldn't be in it. So it would change it, and that wouldn't be what they were perceiving. So if people are saying that they know what life on earth or life in general is about or for, or what this whole system is, you have to know that they are definitely, definitely lying, at least to you, maybe also to themselves, because they are a pixel in a painting. They do not know what the painting looks like. If you asked one of the pixels in this light blue aqua part right here what this was a painting of, they would probably say it's a painting of aqua light blue color. And that's all it's a painting of, because that's all that's around that pixel. But it's not. It's a whole thing of something else. And that's what I'm saying, is when somebody sit here and be like, "Oh, I know what the future is. I know what this is. I seen this. I experienced this. I know these things. I got these knowings." No. You have these ideas, and probably some of them happen to also be right. Who knows? But you don't know that. Don't tell people you knowing that. That's my problem with a lot of things, is that there's a lot of people and entities and structures and forces in this world that are constantly spouting off what they know, and how, because of what they know, then that's like something you need to act on, or that it affects to you. And it's like, well, first of all, you don't know anything because nobody knows anything. Let's establish that right now. And then, secondly, just because that's what you think you know does not mean that that affects my life or that I have to live that way. Now, some things that we sort of know are like about this math stuff that I'm talking about in this class. Math and other functions of the geometric world or whatever. Some things we sort of do know, like the laws of physics. Sometimes the laws of physics do get bent and nobody knows why exactly. But mostly they operate on some standard principles. And that's what I always say about, like, just because the law says that the pedestrian has the right of way and that no matter where the pedestrian crosses the street, the car is supposed to stop for them. And just because that's a law of the road or a law of the city or the state doesn't mean that if somebody breaks that law and their car hits you, that your body isn't going to be subject to the laws of physics. So don't count on just because it's a law, people going to do it. Count on the natural laws, which are based off of these mathematics and all these things. Now, the other thing I want to touch base on and just circle back to real quick here, when I was talking about the idea that, like, people have a hard time seeing others as full, unique individuals with their own whole lives and their own whole story and their whole experience of life and family and everything else, and how people each individually are the ones that are creating for themselves the world as they know it. And so to them, the world only exists through them and because of them, which is all of us, everyone, even animals. If you could ask them, they probably say, yeah, the world exists because of me, because everything I see, everything I touch, that's what exists. Everything else, why would it exist, right? And so, like, even if it's things that you don't see or touch, you can still be like, well, it still exists because of my mind, because my mind has this capacity to know of things that I don't actually have the words for, or that aren't, like, just by me creating the world I'm in, it created all those other worlds. I don't have to sit here and watch that. It's not necessarily a conscious feeling, but it is reality of how we are living, because again, that's just how it is. Like, if you can't perceive something, then to you that thing does not exist. Well, that is also the reason, students, why there is always going to be somebody who is saying that the world's about to end, and why there's always going to be people who are obsessed with the end of the world and always predicting that the world's going to end, that there's going to be an apocalypse, that there's going to be a end of civilization, it's all coming down, or the wool will be pulled from your eyes and all we'll see and it is over, and oh, the whole earth's gonna blow up and blah blah. Now, the earth is gonna blow up, but it's not gonna be like in the human lifetimes that we're living. Like, it's so far down the road, like there's no, like, we're not really stressed about that. But that's not it. It's not, that's not the end of the world that people are talking about when they talk about this. They're always talking about the end of, like, society as we know it, or whatever, an asteroid, or whatever. Always the end of the world. Always, always, always the apocalypse. Always, oh no, like, oh, you better get mind right. You better get right with God and stuff, because the end is coming, blah, blah. The reason why there's always been and always gonna be a cult of the end, or a cult of death, basically, a group of persons who are way more obsessed with the end of society and also like what happens after that and like what happens when everybody's dead or like what happens after you're dead. Like most religions are really way more obsessed with what happens after you're dead than like what happens while you're alive. um the reason why that's always going to be the case is because everybody has this thing in the back of their mind that they know that like the earth only exists because they believe it exists. The earth only exists through their eyes, their nose, their skin, their ears. So if they die, that's the end of everything. It's all going. And so people always know they're gonna, and there's always going to be people who are getting closer and closer to that stage of the life cycle that are going to set up these systems that are all about like telling people, oh no, you better watch out, earth's gonna go, like she's going. And it's like, yeah, I mean she's going, but like not her, like it's, but I mean, you can't really blame people for feeling that way or for glomming onto those kind of ideas because there is a very solid understanding. Ashley, hey, you're back. Oh my gosh, you remembered. I remember you from last time, Ashley. It's nice to see you again. Yay. Yes, all the way from Hong Kong. Thank you for joining me, Ashley. It's so good to see you. I hope that I followed you. I'm gonna write your thing down again because there was a couple people who, when I went to follow them, like I didn't have it written down right or something, and it didn't come through. But yes, I do remember that you were coming from Hong Kong. So for you right now, it's about almost 3:30 in the afternoon on Friday, isn't it? So interesting how the world is and how time works like that. Hey, don't worry about being late to class, buddy. That's all right. At elementary night school, we understand. You've got your own life to live. You're out here, you're busy. That's why we have elementary night school. It's for night times. It's easy going. Easy going. We're not freaking out. So, welcome back. It's nice to see you again. Thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate you. Appreciate everybody that comes in and watches this show for a minute or for a while. I mean, I don't really appreciate some people at the beginning of tonight's broadcast who were saying some like not very nice things and being kind of really weird in the chat, but I'm not going to stress out about that because life's too short. That's what I said at the time when they were saying some sort of weird things. I just said, life's too short to be getting hung up on these ideas that you're talking about or whatever your problem is. Like, or also, life's too short to be mean because, like, you're just gonna have to spend some of your time making up for that. Like, you might as well just not be mean. Because if you've ever watched any show or read any story or ever heard anything about somebody that was like super mean, 9 times out of 10, that meanness comes back and knocks them down because they were being that way. And then they have to go through a whole entire time. Oh, it's okay. That's all right, Ashley. Yeah, I hope you can come back next Friday. Remember, it's at 2 p.m. Hong Kong time on Friday afternoons, 11 p.m. Pacific US. And thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate you. And you can always go back and watch the broadcast on the video, even when it's not live. So keep that in mind. And thanks again, Ashley. Now I forgot what I was saying. mm, doesn't matter. It's okay. Oh, about being mean. And so, what is always the story? Like somebody was mean, and then later something happens where then they're the person who's being bullied, or like somebody's being mean to them, and then they realize how it felt to the other person when they were being mean, and then they have to spend all this time being like going back and trying to make up for it, or trying to be extra nice in the future, and like feeling regret and misery over it. It's like, well, if you just didn't be mean in the first place, you wouldn't even have to go through that whole story arc, and your life could be filled with more entire fun things and good stuff and having fun. So don't be mean, I guess. That's one of the number one rules of elementary night school, but that should be one of the number one rules of life, because it's just not worth it. And that's the hard part, is because unfortunately, something that gets a lot of attention is people that are mean. And we live in a time where people's attention is seen as something that is got money value to it. And in many cases it does. Now, people's attention has always had a value, because if you can command someone else's attention, well, that's very strong power to have. That's something really special. If you can talk to somebody and have a conversation towards them where they're paying attention to you, you're paying attention to them, and by Ashley, um, sharing knowledge back and forth, or learning from someone, even if you're watching a lecture of someone that has already left the earth and doesn't live on earth in their body anymore, but they left behind a video of their lecture or their story or their something interesting wisdom that they're sharing, that's them still commanding your attention even when they have left the earth. How amazing is that? And so I guess what I mean is that, like, it's easy to get people's attention by being mean, or being outrageous, or being hurtful, or chaotic, or spastic, or some kind of like just wild way. But it's not very easy to keep people's attention in those ways. And also, the kind of attention that you're getting when that's your way of getting it is not really the kind of attention that causes you and the other person to both grow. And that's the kind of attention, to me, that is priceless and doesn't actually have a monetary value, because you could never put money to it, because money is just whatever. But like, that's something that's like unquantifiable, because it's just truly the energy that goes back and forth between one person's mind and another person's mind, even, like I say, through space and time. Even if you go back and you watch, like Dr. Wayne Dyer or Mr. Leo Buscaglia, um I don't think I said his name right, but those are both people who, or Mrs. Louise Hay, those are three people who, Reventora, hello to you. Hi, welcome to elementary night school. I was just talking about being kind and not being mean, because what's the point? Life is much too short to be mean. And the attention that you get for being mean or being outrageous is not the kind of attention that helps you to grow as a person or anybody else. So, yeah, if you go through and look at someone else's video, even if they've already left the earth, such as Dr. Dyer and some other persons, isn't that amazing? or when you read a book that someone wrote thousands of years ago, like the movie The Odyssey right now. The movie The Odyssey is based on a story that was written like 2,000 years ago, which is just mind boggling when you think about it, because that's you directly interacting somehow with the mind of a person who, um, okay, uh, I've got to break off the broadcast early right now, and I will have to join you all next week. Thank you so much. Something has come up here in the house, and I've got to cut things off early, but I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much.